This is part three of a five. Blah, 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 blah. This is part three of a 5-part series. So, if any particular object outside of us is not going to resolve this split, and I say this knowing full well we're all going to keep looking anyway, the next obvious place to look, if you get some sense that it isn't going to be outside of us, the next place to look is inside of us. So maybe the subjective experience itself, maybe we can find something that can make this split go away, something that can make the emptiness or the incompleteness finally resolve. Also, I'll just mention here that this distinction between inside and outside is not so clear-cut like I'm making. In fact, by the end of this series, you start to get the sense that maybe this whole thing has invented this inside and the outside. But as long as we do experience it that way, I think it is helpful to call it that and point to it as that and then take it from there. But, just to be clear, it's not like you spend all this time looking outside and then all of a sudden you realize, oh, there's nothing outside. I'm going to look inside. It isn't like that. We just grow up. We just inherit ourselves at any particular moment, having looked outside extensively, having looked inside extensively, and just trying to make sense of all that. Looking inside. What does that even mean? With these words, I am trying to point to our entire inner world, the vast inner universe of imagination, ability to plan, feel, think our thoughts, want things, not want things, love and hate. It includes all of our experiences, all of our memories, picking out particular things and evaluating them, finding good and bad, desiring, not desiring the things we find inside of ourselves. It's an amazing thing when you think about it to be able to, quote, look inside, especially since our eyes that do the actual looking outside can only see outside. But we have, I guess, what we call an inner eye, our imagination. And in our dreams at night, for example, we can actually visualize internally. We can see things without our eyes. But if you're like me, you believe you can only find peace by modifying the internal state. I don't think that's true, but I still act as if it's true. And that's what I want to talk about today. Hello, and welcome to the 10 Crutches podcast. My name is David. I'm glad you're here. I can recognize I am feeling this or that, and then if I'm able, I think about what that means to me. Is that a good thing to feel? Is that feeling something I want to cultivate, or perhaps I judge it and I want it to be something different? The main point to make here is that if you look inside and start to evaluate anything you find, you have turned the experience into an object to think about. When you think about being angry, for example, you have taken a snapshot of your anger. You have stopped feeling it for a tiny moment in order to create a thought about it. This is how our subjective experience becomes an object we can consider, that we can contemplate. And it is so tempting, so very, very tempting to think that our experience needs to be modified in some way for us finally to become ourselves, to be ourselves. Well, we're already being ourselves. There's no need to modify anything, but try telling that to anybody. Our subjective experience can be modified. And well, in some cases, that's a great idea. People go to see therapists. They have fears. They have phobias. They have tendencies to I don't know, self-destruct relationships. I don't know, whatever your issue is. Of course, you want to fix and repair your inner experience. If it's really interfering in your life, of course, people have experienced trauma. People have experienced all kinds of things that are very, very difficult and need to be modified, just like things outside of ourselves need to be modified. Of course, you go inside to modify your experience, but all I'm saying, once again, this is the theme, it isn't going to resolve the subject-object split. When you see so many people trying to do self-improvement projects, in effect, home improvement projects for their subjective being, they are trying to make their subjective experience better, perhaps trying to become a better person. You know, they are working with snapshots of how they have evaluated themselves. The idea of self-improvement is that if you can make your experiences better and better and better, you'll eventually get to a place where it's good enough, where you're finally able to function as a human being or maybe reach your full potential, that kind of thing. That's the whole self-help, self-improvement. And once again, please, nothing wrong with it. Do what you got to do. It's just don't think that this subject who you are, who needs something, by modifying yourself inside, you're just simply modifying yourself. Your life might very well go better once you've made that modification. And I've seen plenty of people who've undergone changes that really helped them a lot. And of course you do things like that. If you're walking down the street and there's a stone in your shoe, you stop and take it out. You don't just walk down and go, oh, you know, pain is just another feeling. And if there's a stone in my shoe, well, that's just another experience. And I'll just keep walking anyway. Ah, ooh, ouch, ooh, ooh, ooh. No, you stop. You take your shoe off. You get the stone out of your shoe. That's how you care for yourself. And if there's other people that need help getting stones out of their shoes, you help them too, of course. I'm just saying that if you're trying to solve this problem of the subject-object split by taking a stone out of your shoe or not taking a stone out of your shoe, just suffering through it, you can see how neither one touches the actual issue. It only touches whether you have a stone in your shoe or not. Changing your inner state will not alleviate the subject-object split. This is because surveying your inner state and evaluating it and deciding to change it and then changing it has no way of touching the underlying nature, the underlying cause of the original subject-object split. One problem that you can encounter with your focus on the inside is that you tend to start believing that, quote, I am the captain of my ship, or another way to put it might be, I am the master of my fate, that kind of sentiment. This type of thing actually does have a very legitimate use at times to help people who feel no agency at all. And I'll comment on this as well in the show notes. Someone who thinks they can be master of their own fate might, for example, start a company. Maybe they invent something useful and then associate all the wealth they accumulate with them having some particular inner state or some drive. They take their success as a sign that their inner state was responsible for their success and that they are indeed, this is all evidence. Their whole life becomes evidence that they're master of their destiny and their monetary success is a sign of approval from the universe because of the way things have manifested for them. Plenty of today's millionaires and billionaires believe exactly that. They ignore all the interconnection with everyone else that was a part of their success. However much the inside of you experiences love, compassion, hatred, irritation, that's one of mine. I get a lot of that one. Creativity, devoting yourself to an ideal, surrendering yourself to some experience of oneness. Whatever the inner experience is for you, your memory of your experience turns it into an object, changes you from someone who was experiencing it into somebody remembering it, thinking about it, evaluating it. Loving one of your own thoughts or ideals makes it an object. and makes you the subject considering it. Let's talk about identity. Whatever kind of identity you experience, whatever kind of identity you express to the world or to yourself, however you identify yourself, there is no identity that will do away with the subject-object split. However you identify your body, your mind, your gender, your sexual preferences, your talents, your lack of talents, social position, class, nation, race, social function, etc., etc. Your identity, like any object you see in the world, may very well be important to you as a subject. I'm not commenting one way or another about any particular identity. You can identify as a husband, a wife, a partner, banker, garbage collector, identify cisgender, transgender, queer, anti-queer, woke, anti-woke, philosopher, artist, baker, candlestick maker, whatever. I'm only saying that the process of finding your identity, while normal and natural, will never touch the subject-object split. It's an outcome of the split, a manifestation of the split. So now we're approaching the end of this episode, the end of part 3. I have, as best as I could, explained the subject-object split and why it leaves us feeling empty and incomplete and on a search for some solution. I have covered why looking outside of ourselves or looking inside of ourselves will never provide a solution. None of this is actually a problem. But because we are so set on looking outside or inside, and because we're so convinced we need to find some solution there, we often don't see what's right in front of us. That's what I want to present in part 5, the last part of this series. I want to present my sense of how all of this is workable, after all. My sense of how we can turn the problem of the subject-object split into our compass towards walking in the present. But first, let's do part 4. The next episode, I want to talk about some of the worst side effects of not accepting our situation. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time. Please visit the home of the 10 Crutches podcast at 10crutches.link. That's 10crutches.link. The book that inspired the podcast, a book I wrote called 10 Crutches for Walking in the Present, is available for free download on the website. While you are there, please take advantage of 2 ways to contact me. You can send me an email or you can make a voice recording. If you have a great question, I may be able to use it for the podcast. Also on the website, you can visit the archive to hear any published episode and see show notes for any and every show. Thanks so much for listening, and once again, thanks so much for listening, and I won't say it once again. See you next time.